Now I'm going to tie a simple but very effective pattern called the APT, which is the all-purpose terrestrial, designed by the one and only and legendary Paul Procter. He's a man after my own heart in terms of simplicity in the dressing, and spending more time on the water rather than at the vise. And this is one of Paul's patterns that it's, when you look at it, you know straight away that it's going to be an effective pattern. It's, as the name would suggest, an all-purpose terrestrial, so it's going to cover a myriad of different insects that are going to, or terrestrials that are going to drop onto the water. It's not one in particular. So it's a good generic pattern to carry in your box. As per Paul's advice, this is actually a size 16, which again would make sense. Most of the river patterns, 14s, 16s, it tends to be a good go-to size for a lot of different patterns, in fairness. So this is a size 16 in the vise here. I'm using like a straight eye curve shank hook, but use whatever you have confidence in, basically. So I'm going to use size 16. I've got a 14-0 Vivas thread in black. So it's going to catch that in towards the thorax. This probably will differ slightly from Paul's dressing, but that's the beauty of fly tying. We all tend to go off on tangents and find our own way, if that's because of access to materials or whatever. For the body, I'm actually using a dyed black pheasant tail. I've got 3 fibres here, which I'm just going to catch in again in that thorax section. Just take it down the body and down the bend slightly, come back up and just wrap that up in touching turns. Don't have to be too exact about this. Most of these river patterns, sometimes the rougher the better, which is a good thing with my tying ability, or lack of. So, but the trout don't care, and that's the main thing. So, take that back up to the thorax, cut off the excess. What we do now is, I like to just take the thread in loose touching turns down and back up. That is basically my rib. Okay, so that's done. Next thing, good old CDC. Where would we be without CDC? So CDC in the wing. So for this one again, 2 medium-sized plumes will be more than enough. So that's going to marry them up. And you will have a natural curve in a feather. You probably see them there, just trying to display that curve. Try and utilize that so that takes the curve and the feathers away from the hook, rather than like that. Perhaps if you're doing an F fly, for example, you'd want that curving downwards. But for this fly, I'm actually going to use the curve and take them away from the hook. So just going to measure that up onto the hook, like so, and it's just protruding just past the bend of the hook, like so. Tied in there, and then cut off those butts. Next thing is, we're going to take a grizzle hackle, which will go through the thorax. So they are stuck. The CDC are well connected to the hook there, and just take the grizzle hackle to where you tied that CDC down to. So that's just sticking up. The next thing, it's very few ingredients again. So in this thorax, if you've got natural peacock, you can use natural peacock. I'm actually using an ice dub or glister or whatever you get your hands on, basically. But like this is basically just a synthetic peacock. So if you want to use natural peacock, that's fine. Just a loose dub, really loose dub. You don't want much in this. Sorry, rather loose, as in in terms of the dubbing rope. It's actually a light dub, I should probably say, rather than a loose dub. So just take that in through the thorax, like so. A bit too much there, let's take a bit out. A lot of the time with river trout flies, less is more. So don't be tempted just to overdress these flies. That's perfect. What we're going to do now, just take this hackle, literally just 2 turns. This is probably reminiscent a bit of like the Griffith's gnat as well. So there's elements of that. So you've got a bit, again, it's representing a few different flies or terrestrials or insects, whatever. A couple of turns just to secure that, like so, and then it's going to stroke all of these loose fibres back, or as many as I can, just to give me a neat head to finish up on, just like so. Whip finish, just a couple of turns. 1, 2, 3, and that's it. That's the fly done. Cut the thread, cut the rest of the hackle out, like so. What you do with this one as well, you've got one straggly end there, which I'm going to snip off. What we also do with this is we cut the underside, so just to get the fly sitting pretty flush on the water surface. You still got a fussy edge to the fly because of the hackles, but just clipping that will allow it just to sit nicer on the water surface, like so. So that's the fly finish. So that's the APT, so Paul Procter's all-purpose terrestrial. I'm sure you can tell why that would be an effective pattern, and I'm sure you could utilise that on the lakes as well if they're on the buzzers. That's gonna work on the buzzer feeders too. Anyway, tie a few up, and I hope they bring you luck. Tight lines.